Yeah, nothing important.
Good evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of the meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedules designated time and date and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We are using electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meeting. Madam Clerk, run the roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison.
Present.
Ms. Grace. Here. Mr. Mignon.
He is out in the family event.
Mrs. Stubbs.
She is ill.
Mrs. Winters. Here. Mrs. Strato. Here. Mr. Mercado.
Present.
Mr. Carlemere.
Here.
Mr. Curtis.
Here.
Chief Harkins.
Here.
Mr. Chadwell.
Here. We now have the first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone wishing to address council may speak at one time. Once all those have finished addressing council, have had their turns, they may have a second opportunity to speak. Each individual is allotted 3 minutes, and there's a maximum of 15 minutes for the first public portion. Is there anyone wishing to speak for the first public portion? Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
On the agenda is a bid report and also a resolution regarding a street sweeping truck. Is that something that we are purchasing?
100 truck sales for Graham Chart, Resolution 145. Mr. Curtis.
Yes, we are purchasing it. It was part of the capital budget.
Capital budget. We just bought one a few years ago, correct?
I believe we did, yeah.
All right. And what town are you cleaning besides Gloucester Township with it?
My knowledge, Gloucester Township.
There's no agreement with Stratford, or was there not an agreement with Stratford or
I
Somerdale?
believe there's an existing agreement with Stratford.
Existing?
Yes, if there was something in the past, it might have been a one-time thing. I don't believe they're doing anything in Stratford now.
Okay. In different parts of town that I visit and doing work, and folks that I know there, we haven't really seen that street sweeper. We used to at least see it during an election year, up and coming to an election. We don't even see it then. We need another one. What's the other one doing?
I disagree on that, Mr.
You can.
Polidoro. There are signs that are put out on the streets prior to the sweeping that takes place, and it's not just done during the election time. It's
Well,
done throughout the year. I can tell you, Peters Lane, Valley Brook, Coles Road, just for example, when I go running through town, I see this.
well, generally when the street sweeper comes through, it leaves this distinctive mark, a smudge
Absolutely.
mark through the street. We haven't seen that in years in the southern end of town.
Okay.
And like I said, we used to see it at least in odd numbered years.
So I'm going to, Mr. Cars, you can reach out to Mr. Guccione and find out the last time the street sweeper was down in the historic part of Ariel, Mr. Polidoro's neighborhood will be interested.
Okay. My next question,
Thank you.
I saw it online, and there's quite a few agenda items on the consent agenda. Did I not see something with a shared service agreement with Pine Hill?
That's correct.
And that shared service agreement is with what?
It's medical services, so
Okay.
going out to bid or EMS services.
Okay,
It
so,
helps with our bid.
I'm sorry?
It helps with our bid, lowers our costs.
Okay, will they be also paying Gloucester Township for the use of that within that agreement?
Think of this.
They're paying 25% of the monthly fee. The monthly fee started at $35,000 for January, February, and March. That's $35,000 total, of which they pay 25% of the 35. And then under the new contract, which is a 5-year agreement, they were billed by Inspira $37,500, of which Pine Hill will pay 25% of that. They also pay for 25% of the utilities at both sites, the Woodshire, I think it's 1 Woodshire Drive, and the other one, 236 Taylor Ave.
I'm gonna have to give you kudos on that. That's probably one of the best things I've seen you guys do in a long time, so,
Appreciate it.
no, it was good, thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Mr. President, can I ask just a brief question? Is there GPS on the street sweeper? So can we determine where it has been throughout the life cycle of the street sweeper?
Yes, all the vehicles have GPS.
So if there was a specific question, you can go to the records on that, correct?
I can. I'm going to talk to Mr. Guccione and Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Who is,
Could you state your name and address, please?
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Bonita Joy Morrison. They call me Joy.
Benita,
I live in La Cascada. I'm the treasurer at the Homeowners Association. And I'm looking for Mr. Chadwell, the township engineer.
He is our engineer here.
How are you today, sir? I wanted to come and introduce myself to you. Would you be the person that I would speak to? We are having an issue with the dam on our lake, and I need to come to like some kind of a resolution. We are willing to pay. The association is willing to pay. It will not be a township burden. Yay! So I'll be making an appointment.
I'll give you my card.
Great. Thank you, sir.
All right.
I'm done.
Oh, thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you all too.
Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roxanne Briggs, and I'm a resident of La Cascada. We moved in March, and I've been working with the Homeowners Association. I want to become a board member. This past weekend and previously, I spoke with Public Works. We're having an awful issue with trash. I spoke with the supervisor, Dominic, for more dumpsters, and he said he would look into it. Last night, the trash was so bad that we couldn't even sit outside with the flies. I'm about 4 houses down. My husband and I took a ride because the conversation revolved around the fact that he went to another court to throw our trash out, which I didn't know that. But I would say at least 90% of the dumpsters, they were full to just about to capacity last night. I spoke with the driver that came the day to pick up the trash. They did miss Friday. They're shorthanded. But if we had more dumpsters so that they wouldn't overflow, it would just be a godsend if you could help us.
Ms. Briggs, is it a twice a week pickup over?
Supposed to be 3.
3 times? Oh, 3 times, okay.
Yeah.
And do you find that people are leaving things outside of the dumpster? For instance, if they're moving out, leaving?
Well, when the move outs at the end of the month, yes. Actually, my husband and I will go out there and pick stuff up.
Okay.
But we couldn't do a thing last night. There was bags on the ground, but there was no room in our dumpster.
Okay.
So, and I won't put someone else's trash in my car.
How many locations do you have for dumpsters? Because I remember seeing them in one location.
That's not the way it was. I have to ask Joy.
We have about 9 locations.
Okay.
There's about 9.
Okay. So if you could help us, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm just gonna ask our business administrator a question. Do you know that, are these dumpsters the same standard dumpsters that they have in the different complexes?
I don't know.
Okay.
I do, yes,
So similar to what they have in Valley Brook,
yes.
is what you
Well,
have in La
Long
Cascada?
story short, we sold our house so fast, we wound up in Cherrywood
Okay.
for 3 or 4 months before we bought a La Cascada. And it was the same dumpsters, same size dumpsters.
Okay.
Is there any recycling happening there?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. That's all. That's usually full also.
Okay. All right. Could you come up here and we'll take your phone number from you, the business administrator? This Mr. Carter's over there.
My best number is 726-87-4763.
Roxanne Briggs.
So what is your address?
5 Lock Scott, yes.
Is Ms. Hall still part of your board?
I don't think so. This fall.
Denise is our administrator. She's not part of the board.
So I just moved down. I'm getting
She
there.
gets everything done.
I will get back.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Krug?
Evening, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. Similar to Ray, Tom, and Council, thank you for the agreement on the medical services and the reduction in what we're going to be spending there. I had that exact same question, and I was hoping to hear the answer. I did. Maybe another suggestion, given the turbulent time coming out of the pandemic, and I don't know if it's a 5-year fixed or a 1 year with 4 option years, but if it's a 1 year with 4 option years, maybe we consider putting it out to bid again, hoping that others will come in and give us a bid to try to create a competitive marketplace, try to drop that price, because I know we weren't spending the $37.5 a month previously, and that had a lot to do with the pandemic. So maybe if it is a 1 year with 4 option years, we could take the option to put it out to competitive bid, kind of create hopefully some free market that'll push that price down now that the market is hopefully recovering.
That was a competitive bid that began in April. That's the 37,005. The 35,000 for a 3-month period was based on the emergency. So in December, we didn't have anybody at that time because AMR walked away from us.
Right. But no one else bid but Inspira, right? For April?
Yeah, I don't think there were any other bidders.
Right. Okay. Do you think with another year going by, let's say it's this time next year, do you think we would, Virtua or Cooper, or others would bid at that point, given the fact that maybe we've come down off of that pandemic high?
Chief, can you respond to that?
Just my experience at this time, no. EMS is a real regional issue right now, not just for Gloucester Township. It's regionally, other municipalities, other police chiefs and fire emergency service are running into real difficulties with EMS service across the county. More options are trying to be looked at, but none of them are easy. It's a difficult industry right now, for lack of a better term. And everybody is really having a hard time. We have had pretty good response within Conspira. We've been pleased. We're monitoring it, and this agreement has really been, so far, knock on wood, a very good one for us so far.
Okay.
That's my
Perfect.
assessment of it, sir.
Okay. Yeah, just a suggestion, given the kind of outlandish pricing of everything right
We're
now.
hopeful that it will, but right now it doesn't. We're still in the same issue.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. And once again, appreciate the shared agreement with Pine Hill. The other question I had was with regard to Resolution 177. This is another letter of support from the township for a recreational marijuana facility. We've had a couple of these come onto the council agenda, and based on what I've heard, we've had discussions surrounding at what point are we going to begin limiting the amount of letters of support we're sending to the state for these type of facilities. So I wanted to know if there was, obviously the discussion's been had, maybe you've been able to think about it as our representatives, and if there was any, I guess, cohesion on when we thought, at this point at least, wait until we see what they look like, how the state's operating, what the Alcohol Control Board for cannabis, how they're going to regulate this before we give any more letters of support.
Does a letter of support mean that we have to approve the venture if they get a license?
It's the vehicle to get them to the application process.
So,
And I know we had discussions about, this is probably maybe what, the 5th or 6th one that's come across our desk. Do you know, Chief or Tom or Dave, have any of them been approved yet?
I don't think the state, they were initially, correct me, I think they're only approving or addressing conditional licenses now, they're not doing the annual license. But part of the state mandate on their application process, they need, the applicant needs a letter of support from the municipality. Doesn't mean that the municipality is saying, yes, we want them here. What the municipality is saying is, they have a location which they have control of, they're not just speculating. You know, that location, they have finances, they have the business set up, and the business model, they meet what we've established as requirements before a letter of support is being requested from council. That just means we have an ordinance in place, and if they should be a successful applicant with the state, they have a location to come to. That's all that's saying. Now, they still have to go planning board, site plan, and all that, which is our support resolution says, subject to any land use restrictions.
Are the decision makers on the constraints you just discussed, are these elected representatives, or are they the ordinance that was passed? Is the decision point the ordinance, or is it here tonight where the elected representatives make the decision?
Before it gets here, they have to have a letter from the Department of Planning that the location they're going, that the use they're gonna put there, retail or whatever, is a permitted use. That's all it says. As long as that's a permitted use in the zone, whether it's highway, commercial, or retail, as long as it's a permitted use. They're subject to whatever land use restrictions come down. The ordinance says one retail can't be so many feet of a residential, or you remember a couple meetings back one was rejected. Can't be so many feet between another retail. So as long as they meet all those ordinance requirements, they get a letter of support. Doesn't mean the way our resolution was drafted that we're telling the planning board we want them here. What it's saying is they meet those initial application requirements. And it would be difficult for, I would think, council to say, we're going to stop giving letters of support because you almost then discriminate in the future, because our ordinance doesn't have a limit to the number of businesses.
Can we put a limit on the number of businesses here? Can we put a limit on the number of businesses we want in the town?
You have to amend your ordinance. The ordinance does not have.
We don't have a cap
restriction.
right now.
There's not a cap. So you have to amend the ordinance to put in a cap.
So if we were to take a look at I think we're on the same page here, okay? If we keep it open and we give 30 letters of support, can we have any ability to deny those 30 licenses if they're approved by the state?
If they meet the zoning requirements, they're permitted. There's not a limit on the number of retail or distribution.
I would just ask, maybe we consider a limit, because I think if we, I'm kind of just seeing the pattern of, and we'll forget maybe how many we've actually approved without seeing if this is good for the community or detrimental to the community. So maybe just to slow step it to see, how this actually plays out, maybe a smart move. I see my time's done, so thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Could we somehow limit within proximity to another store?
We do.
We do have
Yeah,
that.
it has to be so many.
I don't remember the ordinance that detail. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public portion, first public portion. Bid report.
2022 one recycling truck and 2022 sweeper truck.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
There's a second. Thank you. On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Mrs. Strato?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is our ordinance of introduction. There'll be a first reading. There'll be a second reading and a hearing at our following meeting. Ordinance 0-22-07. Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, adopting a redevelopment plan for block 17001, lots 39 to 45, and block 17006, lots 1 to 22, in accordance with NJSA 48-12A1 FSEC, local redevelopment and housing law. This ordinance allows us to amend current land development ordinance and designate as a redevelopment entity the redevelopment plan for these blocks and lots located in the Brittany Woods section. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
There's a second on the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mrs. Strata?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Adopt second reading, ordinance 0-2206 is adoption, ordinance amending chapter 15 of the Code of the Township of Gloucester entitled Police Department. This allows the township to set standards in determining residency requirements for individuals seeking employment to be offered employment to become a member of the police department. Class 1, residents of Gloucester Township. Class 2, residents of Camden County. Class 3, other residents of the state. Class 4, all other qualified residents. It also identifies order of appointments and certification of eligibles for position. I'll now open up the public hearing for this ordinance. Anyone wish to speak, please raise your hand. Mr. Crew.
I just read this quite briefly. I was just interested in speaking with Chief. I noticed that this seems to be to instate that officers should live in the township. Is that correct?
No, upon their hiring.
Upon their hiring?
They have
Okay.
class.
So it's kind of looking forward. New officers would live in the township. And is that to better be able to police by connecting with the community members?
So this ordinance was brought about as part of our accreditation process. This is amending our 1993, I think was the last time this ordinance was adopted. This will bring us into compliance with New Jersey civil service law. We were really not quite in compliance, or I don't want to say we weren't in compliance, it wasn't as clear. This is better clarity using the same terminology in congruence with the civil service statutes. The practice that we've had is not changing. We have been hiring residents as a priority. The different stages, the different classes that the council president stated puts it into that we have a hiring list with a preference of Gloucester Township residents first, then county residents second. If we expend that entire list, then we would go to a state list, and then the fourth is kind of like a catch-all. We need police officers, there's no list. I had never experienced it. We had never gone to a county list. We've always used our township list of township residents. So, it says at the time that they hire that they're township residents, the time they take the civil service test, and the time that they hire that they're officers. You are required to live in the state of New Jersey to be a police officer, so this ordinance is bringing us, it's a cleanup to get us in line with what the civil service statutes are.
Okay, makes sense. Appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, close the hearing. Entertain a motion on the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mrs. Strata?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is our consent agenda. Any council member that would like to have any item removed, please speak up. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mrs. Strata?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. We have a few GTE Gov access emails. Okay, bear with me. All right, we'll start off with Jason Fuqueri from 3 Crab Apple Court in Blackwood, New Jersey. Hello, I've been a resident of Gloucester Township for most of my life, and I truly enjoy raising my family here. With that being said, I think it's pertinent to place a sidewalk along Meadow Run Drive and for that sidewalk to continue to Pine Run Drive. My request for this is based on the local foot traffic in the community, along with several children's bus stops that currently are along these roads. These roads lead to Route 42, which in turn increases the amount of drivers who do not live in the community and who are unfamiliar with these roads. The back of my house sits along Meadow Run Drive, and I'm personally willing to accept whatever burdens this may bring. My hopes are for handicap accessible sidewalks to allow children not to be forced to walk or ride their bikes in the streets as they make their way to the local park. I also hope that we could add street signs that light up when a pedestrian is in the walkway to ensure safety for those who are in the community who want to be able to enjoy walking their dogs safely. I beg of our township to continue to be proactive in creating a safe environment for everyone. So I got some historical context from the Public Works Department, and in when this area in the late 80s, when this area was developed, there were no curbs and only swales for the stormwater. During the late 1980s, the system started to fail. At the time, a discussion took place with Mayor Mullen, and Mayor Mullen had proposed to install curbs and sidewalks throughout the development. At the time, overwhelmingly, the residents of the court voted against it for various reasons or had issues with it. But from the recollection from our public works supervisor, it was an extremely heated conversation, and they decided not to move forward in putting sidewalks and withdrew that sidewalk portion of the proposal. But I don't think it's a bad idea to go back and see if there's any legs to this. So I'm going to kick that back to Mr. Cars and Mr. Bucciaroni. Okay. Next question is from Peter Heimbaugh to Morningstar Court. I have 3 questions regarding the debt incurred by Gloucester Township. Please explain the Gloucester Township administration's plan for borrowing the $8.7 million that was authorized earlier this year. The plans to roll out the current bond anticipation note in the amount of $7.8 million and change. That's due August 3rd, and then to add this ordinance to the balance. Is that correct, Mr. Carter?
That's correct.
Okay.
1 year period.
Second question, there was a last minute amendment to the 2022 Gloucester Township budget, which added $78,570 in interest expense to the budget. Please explain this budget amendment. On August 3rd, 2021, we borrowed $7.8 million in bond anticipation notes that was borrowed for ordinance 20-11, $453,147, and ordinance 21-08 for $7.4 million. This bond anticipation note is due on August 3rd, 2022, and the interest due is $78,562.74, which was inadvertently missed in the introduced budget. So that's the difference there, Mr. Hyman. Number 3, in 5 of the last 9 years, Gloucester Township has passed budgets that use borrowed money to pay for day-to-day general expenses. We can all agree that using borrowed money in this way is a suboptimal cash management practice, and it is a very costly way to pay current expenses of the township government. As we borrow more money in R2D2 over there. Okay, as we borrow money in 2022, what is being done to ensure that this pattern is not repeated? Mr. Cars has stated this many times in the last year or last 2 years when that capital money was canceled. At the recommendation of the state, any fully funded bond ordinances that were canceled, and that amount can be used to relieve or offset debt service payments in future budget years. I would agree. I would say that is hard to anticipate that. Is that correct, Mr. Cars? I think your basis. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, again, the state in their local finance notes strongly recommended that as a budget practice to cancel capital. And the method that is recommended is to anticipate it as a line item, and they view that as offsetting debt service.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Mr. Sam Sweet. At 18 Elizabeth Place in Erie. About 2 months ago, council approved a capital budget, project budget of approximately $8.7 million. Has the township borrowed any of that money yet? No, we have not. If not, when does the township intend to borrow this money for the project? The plan is to roll the current bond anticipation note in the amount of $7,878,158 that is due on August 3rd, and to add this ordinance to the balance. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Mr. Carlos?
No, again, that would be a one-year note for both figures.
Okay. Thank you for your work on that, and thank you to the CFO for his work on that. Well, we'll now open up the second public portion. Anyone wishing to speak would raise their hand. You're entitled to 5 minutes. There's 30 minutes in the public portion. Once everyone has had an opportunity to speak, if we have time remaining, they may speak again for a second time. Anyone want to speak during the public portion? Mr. Burns.
Good evening, Council. Brian Burns, Longwood Drive, Ariel.
Good evening.
I haven't been to a meeting for, I think, 2 rounds, but I've been doing a little bit of homework on obviously my subject of preserving open space. When did Triad take over Ken Lechner's job with regard to Green Acres?
Well, Ken retired.
Yeah, Ken retired at the end of December,
Yes.
so that's when Triad took over.
Yes.
Okay, I had some conversations with Jack Botticelli from Triad. Jake, I'm sorry. And I said, what are we doing with the Murray property and the Hayes properties? Well, we're not working on those yet. I'm working on previous properties. And I pressed him on. I said, well, can you give me the lot and block numbers of those properties? Because I'm curious what we're preserving. And it turned out he's still working on the Rosalind Bridge. And I said, well, I thought the Rosalind Bridge was done. I said, the settlement took place. The property is identified as Green Acres. It's open to the public. I mean, what is there to do? And he said there is a recreation and open space inventory that property has to be listed to. Well, if Triad started working this in January, it's January, February, March, April, May, we're halfway through June, 5.5 months. How long does it take to add this property to the inventory? Maybe I'm not ignorant, I don't understand what that process is, but it's been 5.5 months. Does anyone know why it's taken 5.5 months?
I am not aware of Mr. Cook.
I have not had a conversation with Triad on that issue.
Okay, could you do that
Yeah.
for the next meeting? I mean, the property owners are, we're coming up probably close to a year. I know the council passed a resolution to preserve the properties several meetings ago. But yeah, the property owners, they would like to have some idea of the timelines of this thing happening. And it just seems odd that 5.5 months after Ken retires, we're still on the Rosalind Bridge property. And the Hayes and the Murray properties are the only 2 other properties that are in the pipeline for preservation.
So we'll secure a status report on Murray and Hayes.
All right, thank you. And the last time I was here, I ran some information past Mr. Mercado, who went to Mr. Bach, Stephen Bach, for clarity, and I appreciate that. So my original number was skewed because it included properties that are zoned for development as opposed to those that are board approved or under construction. So I did my homework on this. This is currently what we have. These are currently under construction or board approved for construction. We have Blackwood West, 478 units, Little Pond, 89 units, Independence behind Lowe's, 180, the Nike base, which is well under construction, 72, Villa 3, which is going to be across from Mullen, which had the variance, so you can put more units in there, 162. Lakeland 120, and over here on Route 42 along the expressway, 360 units plus 125 unit hotel. So we're looking at 1,461 units coming in. Figure the average, most people in their families have 2 cars. Would you all agree to that? I would say so. I mean, think about your own lives. You probably have at least 2 cars at home. So we're looking at almost 3,000 more cars on our roads. You ever try to get around here at rush hour? It's crazy. It's absolute, especially Sicklerville Road. Sicklerville Road at lunch or at dinner time is backed up almost from Cross Keys all the way out to the Black Horse Pike. And we're just adding more. You know, and it's frustrating for me. It really is frustrating. And I would like to ask each of the council people here, what percent of our land mass would you like to see preserved as open space? So Ms. Stubbs?
That's not Ms. Stubbs.
I'm sorry. Ms. Stubbs here tonight?
No.
Okay, Mr. McCarty?
So the properties that you have identified were all private property.
I understand. So you're saying you can't change the master plan? Sure you can. You can rezone it.
Engage in spot zoning, is that correct? Is that the correct terminology? I spent 9 years on the planning board, so I learned a little something,
Okay.
but you just can't do spot zoning because you just don't want certain things in our community. Because then you go to court, and then, you know, as a resident here, and we all end up paying for that. And, you know, I've talked about the project that's occurring on Hero Road, which it escapes me now. What was the name of the property? What's happening right now? Hero Road and Black Horse Pike. What was the original name? Southwoods. The Southwoods project. That was approved, I believe, in 2006, 7, and they broke ground a year ago.
Yeah.
And it was in litigation. It was denied because people didn't like it. That's what the thing, people didn't like it. They go to court, the guy runs, the recession comes, he runs out of money, sells it to someone else, the project. But that was private property.
Right.
There's property that we had that we've been able to obtain or we can open, but I can't dictate to you as a property owner what you're gonna do with your property.
But the zoning board can rezone, go back to the master plan and change the zoning. Is that correct?
You can do a rezoning.
Sure.
But you have to have logic, reason to do that. Why you take some ground and saying it cannot be used for commercial, for residential, or 2 units to an acre, or, you know, you gotta have logic in as.
Well, you can certainly zone it like, you know, the property across the Mullen, it was zoned for 1 acre properties for residential homes. And you guys approved it to be changed, they got townhouses in there. So you're gonna add, you know, a lot more people in the same amount of space, and you change the zoning for that. You change the zoning for Little Pond down here. So the zoning can be changed, but you have to want to do it. You have to say to yourselves that, you know, this place is built out enough. The roads are so crowded and congested, you know, and you're putting more burden on the police department and EMS and leaf pickup and snow removal and so on and so forth. You can do it, but you have to want to do it. That's the thing, you have to want to do it. And the idea that, well, the more we build, the more we can control our taxes, it just seems like the more you build, the more our taxes go up. Because there's more demand on the services. You know, and if you were to approach landowners that have land now and say, you know, we have money, and you do have money, you have well over $1 million for open space acquisition, you know, would you consider preserving your land instead of selling it to a developer? It can be done, but you have to want to do it.
Mr. Burns, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Ms. Coyne?
Good evening. Denise Coyne, Choose Laney Road.
Good evening.
I have questions regarding ordinance 02207 for the Brittany Woods lots. I didn't have much time to review this, but I'm assuming it's only certain lots in that development. It's not the whole development.
Lots 39 through 45 and lots 1 to 22.
Okay, so can somebody tell me how the lots were chosen? Is there criteria for which lots are included in this?
So Stan Slahekta worked on this TM and Associates. And the general purpose of the redevelopment plan is to upgrade some of the these existing 29 unit townhome fronting along Prospect Avenue and Yorkshire Court. I read briefly through it. We received this earlier today. I can provide a copy for you if you like.
The ordinance? I do
No,
have,
this plan.
oh, so the plan is completed?
Yep.
You wanna know the
That's the over
difference
for the
Yes,
between,
it goes before the planning board tomorrow.
I didn't meet with,
There's Mr. Slagta.
yeah, I can share just
Go ahead.
one small difference. Is that area is really low income base, more of a rental unit section, where the other part of Brittany Woods is more homeowners, or they own their home, so that's the like difference between that.
So
section.
what is the goal of the redevelopment plan?
That's to improve the aesthetics in the area. They're going to redevelop it.
So are they gonna tear it down and rebuild it? Or are they going to rehab it? Like what is,
Rehab.
so are there people living there currently?
Yes.
So are we going to pay to relocate them while this rehabilitation is being completed?
That was part of the discussion, yeah, to relocate them and then move them. So yes, I would like to know more too, so I'm gonna have some questions, but yes, to relocate them, why? But it's sections that they're not gonna do the whole thing at the same time. It's just part of a section and then they're gonna move to the next section. Those people are gonna move back in and then they're gonna move to the next portion of, and I think it's like maybe 60 homes in that section.
Okay,
29.
can somebody explain how this came about? Because I know if it's a redevelopment zone, there has to be a resolution for T&M to do the study and the plan, but you have a completed plan and I don't remember seeing a resolution, so I'm assuming that's because it's a rehabilitation area and not a redevelopment zone? Is that a correct assumption, or was there a resolution and I missed it?
Mr. Cars, do you have that information on with you?
Mr. Carter. My sense is it's the developer that's coming in that wants to take charge to redo those lots. And responsibilities fall on the developer as far as if he has to relocate or move someone out, doesn't fall on the township. That's the developer coming in that has a vision to change these particular lots in Brittany Woods and have them separate from Brittany Woods development. So characterize it as a redevelopment zone. That's something that these developers taken on as a responsibility. It still has to go to the planning board, for planning board review and approval before council can do the second reading and adoption. If the plan gets approved there as it is drafted without changes, then council can move on the ordinance in second reading. But that's the developer's concept of what he sees for that area. And looking at the plan, it seems fair and reasonable, just from my view, from the legal side, looking at it. That came in this afternoon before the meeting, but it still has to go to the planning board for the review.
Okay, well, I guess my question is, according to the housing and redevelopment law, does there have to be a resolution for T&M to do this plan or this? Or I I don't understand how T&M just goes and does a plan that costs the residents thousands of dollars so that a redeveloper can redevelop a building because they want to.
I know they posted an escrow. I believe they're being charged for that, out of that escrow account. Can't remember the developer's name, Jeff something. They've been asking for several months for us to move on this. And there was some delay with T&M.
I guess my question is the procedure by which we have gotten this plan. I think that's where Denise is going. Did we do a resolution authorizing the completion of this plan?
You could have done a straw poll, I don't know.
We should probably check. When you did it.
I remember. Sometime back. I can't remember, but I feel like we did.
Straw poll.
Well, let's double check. Is there anything else with support?
Yes, I would like a copy of that plan. And is there gonna be, what is the existing zoning currently? Because this says that, it's going to supersede the existing zoning. So what is the existing zoning?
It's a RA zone district, residential attached.
So what is it going to be zoned?
Let's see, bear with me. It's a 3-3 is the existing. Bear with me. If anyone comes across it before I do, please let me know. I just see the existing zone here in this corner.
Well, this says you're changing the zoning map to include this, so that tells me that you're changing the zoning.
There's a development of a new community building and a playground. I'm just talking about some of the goals and objectives, improving the sidewalks and pedestrian crossings, and the rehabilitation and upgrading of the existing townhouse development, those 22 units.
So they're also building a clubhouse.
Yes, community center.
Okay, so is this going to change the master plan as well? Because this wasn't in the master plan, so.
I would have to get some direction from our planner on that.
And who's,
Get back that Mr. Petrongelo, who works with us,
okay, and
and Mr. Slack.
so does our director
That's
of,
your last question. We'll have to wrap it up because you are exceeding your time.
okay, I did have my hand raised about this ordinance in the first public portion, and I didn't get called on, so. Vince,
There's other people that want to speak, Ms. Coyne.
okay, is there a limit on how many people speak in the
There's
first
a
public?
15-minute time period, and right now, you've exceeded your time, so then that lessens the amount of time that other people have an opportunity to speak.
Okay, Vincent Borelli, did he have any input on this, or will he?
Vince Burrow is the director of community development. I don't know if Mr. Burley is intimately involved with this. I can find out, but I don't believe so. I believe it's through Mr. Petrongelo, Mr. Slack.
He's not.
Okay, and will you send me that plan directly, or do I need to send an Uber request in for
You
it?
can send an over request.
Thank you.
Thank you. There, Ms. Smithman. Mr. Pardo, you spoke before. Ms. Smithman has been raising her hand.
Hello, good evening. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in Millbridge Gardens Apartments.
Good evening,
apartment
Ms. Smithman.
341. If I could bring up, again, when trying to contact the local police or local fire department to know which municipality is serving the different intersections or streets wherever a non-emergency might be occurring, if it would be possible to consider in the planning of the township of Gloucester and all the different cities that it's involved with, possibly placing a plaque or a sign of some kind, one to indicate fire and one to indicate police, the different departments. If these plaques or signs could be located on every street post, identified with a picture, one for police, one for fire. So if someone is illiterate, they can see what is being addressed. Place the address of the local police department and the local fire department. You could also indicate it with braille in case someone is blind. When they find the location, if they're all located on a street sign at a standard height, they will know where to look. They can feel with their finger what the address is for, either for the local fire or the local police. They will know that the location they're at, what fire department and what police municipality serves that location. You could also write it in raised or recessed writing. So if someone cannot write, either because of deformity of the hand, or say they just don't write, they don't know the English language, if their letters are very different, it would be clear and legible to where they could place the postcard or envelope against the placard and use a crayon or a piece of lead or even a green leaf, depending on how emergent the situation might be. Place it at wheelchair height to accommodate people in a wheelchair or people of shorter stature. If you're extremely tall, I know that that is also not typical, but maybe they could take a name and reach down and be able to see where they are and what municipality it serves. I live in Millbridge Gardens Apartments. It's considered the zip code of Clementon, which is 08021. But I'm told to attend Gloucester Township City Council meetings, which is postal zip code 08012, depending on where you're looking. It's not considered Gloucester Township, although I'm told it's Gloucester Township Police that serves my area. It can be very confusing for myself, and I'm from New Jersey, 44 years now, going on 45. It would be very helpful for people if they had a consistent access to what municipalities they've served. So if they see something that is not an emergency, people aren't going to put too much effort into it. If it's not an emergency, if you gave them an ease of access to the communication of the township it serves, you might get more helpful hints on what's going on in the area. Also, on the consent agenda, what is the Department of Vital Statistics? I noticed there was someone by the name of Renee Tyler.
They handle
Birth certificates, marriage certificates.
death certificates, birth certificates, anything like that.
Do you have to be, it has to be do with this area though? Like I'm from New Jersey, but I was born in
You get
Hawaii.
married in Gloucester Township, they handle the what marriage.
I didn't know if you could like register yourself to be more well-known to the local area.
No, it just deals with certificates of birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates. So if someone who dies in Gloucester Township and they get a death certificate issued through that office. They get married.
Is there a local hospital to be born in this area? My father was born in.
No, we don't have many birth certificates issued.
Because my father is from Oak Avenue. And it was considered Hilltop, but it's Blackwood.
So majority, what I do during the day when I see birth certificates, it's coming from Voorhees Township or Camden City because of Cooper and Lords over the years. So that's where majority of birth certificates.
I just noticed it was refunding them. There in the consent agenda, it says something about refunds for them.
Oh, yeah, if somebody, maybe like someone, a couple was gonna get married and decide not to follow through, there's a refund on their
I have no idea.
marriage certificate.
I'm still trying to figure out how to be here.
Okay.
And also there's a block of sidewalk about 300 feet from Blackwood Clementon Road intersection of Kelly Drivers Road.
Yes, you brought it up at the last meeting. Mr. Carr, you have an update on that?
I do not, but I will get her an update.
Please, if you can have that.
Yes.
At our next meeting.
I will.
Ms. Smith
I
has
tell
brought
you,
that
it was
up.
addressed at our quarterly quality of life meeting. I know community development and public works were working on that and that entire area for any improvements. I don't know results yet, but proposals are being made.
Okay. We'll get information. So, Ms. Smithman, your time is up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Polidoro?
Good evening again, Council. Ray Polidoro from Ariel. We discussed that the EMS service, we're now paying for that. Did we seek any legal return from AMR, who abandoned their position, left us vulnerable, put you all in the position of having to find very quick emergency service? And again, praise for what you've done, but AMR still has to be held accountable. You don't just walk out on a town and cause you guys to spend money. I gotta believe that at some way, you guys are looking for some type of retribution from them. Is there an action started against AMR?
Yes. As far as, yes, there is.
Excellent, thank you. I think what Ms. Winters and Mr. Hutchison were looking at is a method to which we can still serve the cannabis community that is not going to be discriminatory. And would it not be advantageous to look at it in a more territorial, like they would bars and various things, where per 5 square miles, there'd be one located? Could you not allot those type of territories where 1 or 2 may possess within that territory? It's fair and equitable. It would be something for the town to look at. And once you reach that limit, you can't overflood or flood that zone. It would allow you to do what you have to do. And yet, within the parameters, those coming in know that there's a spot available on one end, spot available on the other. And it just seems that it would be fair. And when the lot's closed, the lot's closed. Something maybe to consider. Mr. Borelli's name came up. Is Mr. Borelli one of the people who bear the responsibility of what Mr. Lechner used to do?
He oversees the department.
Okay. Mr. Lechner was kind enough to be at the meetings. Mr. Borelli is just basically Claude Rains to us, and it'd be nice to have.
You are dating yourself, I'd say.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, for those young people that don't
The
know.
young people that don't know.
Yeah, Claude Rains is the invisible man. And for the most part, it'd be nice to have when these questions come up, instead of you having to thumb through paperwork and someone to help you out. It'd be nice. I mean, that's what the guy gets paid for, right?
We should have our planner here, and at the next meeting, that's why I leaned over. I said that.
Yeah, I'd like to
Ms. Sarah, that we need.
put a face to this name.
That we should have our planner here at our next meeting.
Okay, gonna try and finish up and leave a little bit of time if need be. Now, in the last meeting, you guys passed the budget. There was a lot of controversy with it, a lot of people that didn't like it. I think I remember standing here saying that I figured you guys would do 4-3 and pass it by 1 vote, and you did. Those that voted no, it wasn't as much a surprise, but awkwardly enough, it was pretty quiet. There was really no, you guys usually talk about why you're voting yes or no. And Dan has, if you could save 2 crickets, isn't it worth it? Whatever the case may be. You guys come in with, yeah, I'm gonna vote no. And that seemed awkward. Is there anything that you guys like to discuss further now that the intensity of vote is gone? Because from this side, it looks like, well, the ones that voted no are up for re-election. One might think that that was a motive behind that, because you seem to boast about this budget, how much we needed it, and then, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and vote no. Could you help us out? You're gonna need to bring your microphone closer, please.
People didn't want to hear it last time. I wanted to give my reasoning, and nobody wanted to hear it.
Well, here's the thing.
Hold on.
That's the kind of
Please,
stuff.
hold on. Please refrain from outbursts. Why do I have to scold older people, adults? No. You knew who Claude Rains was, just like I did, so why do we have to do that? The tone was set last meeting by comments from you, Ray, with this whole, we know this, and asking questions that you supposedly knew the answers to about quotes. You set the tone. You got your people out. Great job. Great job. But that was the tone set for the evening. And so you ask about people who voted no, you know it's gonna be 4-3, we're Nostradamus now.
But you
How
heard it.
many times, Ray, have I voted no on a budget? You've been here for 16 years. How many times have I voted no on a budget?
I believe that was your first.
Correct. How many times have I won an election, Ray?
You were the lowest,
Five.
you've been the lowest vote getter, and it keeps getting lower. So I'm presuming that this was
I
CYA.
still beat the other counties by 1,000 votes.
You've been around the longest. You got the lowest votes of most of the
That's
people you
fine.
ran with. You know,
But
it's,
Ray,
I understand scratching and digging. I
Ray, I'm
understand
not
that.
no, Ray, if you're gonna say something, take it. Okay, you're gonna dish it out, take it. So Ray, how many times? 0? I voted for it. I had some issues with this budget. I have an issue with the overtime. I have some issues with the staffing that we have here, the amount of staffing that we have in our township. And I communicated that with the business administrator, and I communicated that with the mayor. Okay, when we had a 20-cent increase, when we had Mayor Ralph Hatton here, listen, we had a recession. We had a 23 and a 22 back to back. And there was folks that you brought out here that stood in the back. I remember one former council member stood all the way on the right-hand side that sat in the back and said, Mayor Ralph Hatton had the courage to put a 23-cent budget increase for.
The 23 cent was Mr. Mayor's.
No. She
That
had
was
two
2010.
budgets, 20 plus.
No, that
She had
Mr.
two budgets,
David
20
R. Mayor,
plus.
David R. Mayor signed that, and you know that.
Ray,
It's
Ray,
documented. Let's not play that. Let's not play that.
No, 2 years in a row, there was a 20+ cent increase.
And David Mayor signed
That
one of
was
them.
Here.
David
Read your
Mayor and
video.
council signed that. Let's not play that game.
2 years in a row. So, but there was Carl in the back. Mayor had Mayor had the guts and courage to put that budget. We all understood we were in the midst of a recession. We all understood that. And that's what needed to be done. And I sat here and said, bills need to be paid, the lights have to be kept on, streets have to be clean, trash has to be picked up, police need to continue to police.
Mr. Ricardo,
You asked me a question, let me finish, right?
Sure.
please? So when I voted no, I have some issues with it. There's some things that need to be done on this budget. And I expressed that to Mr. Cardis. So when you come up here, hey, you make your proclamations each year, it's gonna be 7-0, we're gonna have a 10-cent increase, this and that, and we just let you say it.
But I didn't say 7, though. I said
I'm
4-3.
I'm speaking. You keep cutting me off. I don't cut you off when you speak.
Go ahead. And you do, but go ahead.
I do not. I'm done and your time is done. Thank you very much.
Nice job.
That concludes the second public portion. Again, I ask anyone that comes up here to speak, be cognizant of the time that you have, because there are people that have concerns that they'll like to speak as well. Polling the directors.
Mr. Carlemere,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cordez,
Nothing to report.
Chief Harkins,
Just a couple of reports for council. Gloucester Township Day, I don't think we've had a meeting right before. We had unofficial record number crowd. We had beautiful weather. It was a good event. No significant issues. Great job by Public Works and the whole team here. From when I was here for most of the afternoon into the evening. And was considered a very successful event for us. Good to have it again. Just want to report the tornado that struck our Deer Park neighborhood off. Very localized, very small. I got the call at 5. I think our first calls were 5:17 a.m. It was very brief, but very localized to the back area of Deer Park Circle. I was in communication with Mr. Cardis very early, Mr. Butcher, the mayor. We had responded out and made sure injuries, but Public Works, I just want to commend Public Works. By 11 o'clock in the morning, the roadway was clear. The roadway was not passable when I was there about 8:30, speaking with residents and whatnot. So I commend Public Works. They were there with a full crew. They cleared the area, and we were able to put our drone up. Our emergency management coordinator was on the scene to talk to all the residents. The reason it was determined to be an EF1 tornado was because of our drone footage that was submitted so quickly to the National Weather Service, which will help our residents with their insurance claims. So that.
Was there any displacements, Chief?
There were no displacements. A couple houses had trees that came down into their family rooms and whatnot. Some significant damage to some of the houses on the back side. But tree services were there. And if you go through the neighborhood now, it's even hard to tell, except for the debris that's piled up and whatnot. But it was a good team effort to get these residents cleared, and we received many compliments. So the last thing I just want to compliment, where I had the opportunity to Gloucester Township Police Honor Guard and several officers. We were proud to represent the Special Olympics sports run up at the opening games at the College of New Jersey. Sergeant Adam Olano was our SWAT commander, ran the torch to represent all Camden County. And the employees here all contributed, and we raised $2,400 for the Special Olympics, and it was a great event for them. So we were very proud, and we appreciate the support of the township during that event. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chadwell?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Rochester?
Briefly, I walked to work the other day, and when I was walking, I noticed an officer in front of Choose School. And, there was a police presence as the kids were arriving, parents were arriving. And I continued on past Glendora, the school in Glendora, and there was an officer in the playground area as the kids were entering the school. And I think that's great. That is such a deterrent. And I hope that God, we never have a problem that Texas had. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Ms. Grace?
Gloucester Township Day, I ditto that. It was a great event. I was there. Was there with Deltas, was there with Mayor and Scholarship Committee. So it was an awesome event. We're gonna keep doing that. I was hoping the two ladies from La Cascada stayed, but they left. But I do want to share that we had a great event, and Brittany was a cleanup event, and the leaders in Gloucester Township, the community leaders there, have did a fantastic job over the last 5 years. Miss Yvonne, Mr. Match, Miss Shirley Carmine, Jackie Cleve, Donna, the Recreation Department, the Public Works Department, Community Relations Officer who's here. I think he stepped out, but there you go. Thank you so much. It takes, we use a model there in Gloucester and Brittany Woods. Together we are better. They have been committed to making their environment the best it could be, and it is awesomely, is a great turnaround. So La Cascada and other developments similar to that. We also had fly problems in our section, but we came together and talked about what to do about it, and I'm hoping to do that with La Cascada. The two ladies that were here that left, and I'll get their information, and I'll be working with them as a councilwoman and other communities similar to what Brittany Woods has been through over the last 5 years. But they're at a point where I'm gonna meet with Ms. Shirley and all the leaders in the community on the 25th. And we're gonna talk about combining now a 2-hour cleanup event with National Night Out, because it's gotten to a point where the cleanups are not really necessary, because all the hard work with Public Works in every department, it's a amazing turnaround, and I'd like to see that for other communities in Gloucester Township that are similar. But I'm thanking everyone for their hard work and support with Brittany Woods. They're on their way. Nothing more for us to do but to continue to have a good time on National Night Out.
Grace, can I add?
Yes.
I meant to add that. And I will add this. Again, these are unofficial numbers, but just 27 years as a police officer, our number of calls for service in Brittany Woods are probably at the all-time lowest that I've experienced in my career. So I do commend you and the community leaders, and it has been a partnership and
Absolutely.
with real tangible results. To the point where we are, we're past the point of having to clean up. We're now just kind of having fun with some of the things and moving along.
Yeah.
And La Cascada, I'm anxious. I know I asked Officer Walden to connect with them before they left because that is a targeted area for us along that Kelly Driver Road corridor. We just had our Public Works did a cleanup. We have some traffic things that are going on and improvements, and we've done well there, and we can do better there.
Honestly, I will share that with the members of the Brittany Woods Community Action Group, that if any of them are interested in moving along and helping and sharing the blueprint of what they've done in Brittany Woods
work really has.
and going into other communities to really show what they can do together to make things better. So I'm really pleased I just wanted to spend a moment to thank them because they've been very committed to what they do. They meet as a committee once a month or, to plan, and everybody took a part in developing projects throughout the 5 years and led up a project. So I think that it's really a community effort. And in order to make those changes, it has to be those folks in the community making those changes and partnering with township and public works and council and getting that support. So, but the difference is with the community people, the persons that make it happen, those that live there. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Ms. Grace.
Mrs. Winters, I just want to mention that there's a town somewhere out in the Pittsburgh suburbs that hosted their first annual hockey tournament. So one of the GTHA teams went, the cadet B team, and they went out there and they did win the championship out there. So, they are making a presence in all the ball hockey neighborhoods. There's also different levels of ball hockey now. It's actually getting more national. I know there's a team that was just put together that I forget when they're going up to somewhere in Canada to play. And it's like an elite team that was put together for some of the older kids. Because I know one of the ones that's going is probably like 24 or 25. He's my son's age. He's younger than my son. So it is getting recognition, and Gloucester Township is definitely on the map for that. So it's a good thing for us as a town because we continue to get a name for us outside of the area, but also bring different towns and a lot of different things into the community also. I just want to thank everyone for coming out and their comments. Have a great week. Mrs. Strada.
Just like to thank the police and public works and all for their work with Gloucester Township Day and also the South Jersey Historical Fair that took place this past Saturday. So thank you guys for a job well done, and thank you all. Have a good week.
Mr. Prada.
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening and just echo what everyone said regarding Gloucester Township Day and thank the Gloucester Township Scholarship Committee. That is their biggest fundraiser of the year that supports scholarships for our seniors to go to college from our town. So thank you to them, our police, Public Works, Fire, and EMS that participated, and all the vendors and people that came to the event. So thank you for coming to that. As we reopen our township, you saw that we already have a date for the food truck event in October. I have a date set for Trunk or Treat. We have that in October. So we're reopening up our township and doing more things, and it's good to see people out and about again. Thank you for coming out this evening. I entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor? Have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah.